Aloha mai kako. My name is Alana Kanahele, and I will be presenting on the Mukurtu Hubs and Spokes project. Before I start, I want to take the time to give a big mahalo, a huge thank you to all of the staff members at PARADISEC and the University of Sydney who have worked so tirelessly to pull together this conference, albeit in a different format than it has been in previous years. So big thank you, a big mahalo nui. So as I mentioned, my name is Alana Kanahele. I am a PhD student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, where my research focuses on Indigenous intellectual property of Pacific communities. And I also work as the Hawaii and Pacific Hub Manager for the Mukurtu Hubs and Spokes project. So the name Mukurtu is actually a Waramungu word, which is an Aboriginal community from Tennant Creek, Australia. The name is in reference to a dilly bag, which you can see in the upright corner here. And it really refers to kind of a traditional bag used to hold sacred objects. And as a digital repository, we really wanted to make sure that Mukurtu really enveloped a lot of these similar sentiments, that, you know, it was an open source platform that allowed communities to manage and ethically share their digital heritage in ways that were culturally relevant and ethically minded. So Mukurtu has a lot of features that allows for varied levels of access. As I'm sure a lot of us know, you know, Indigenous communities aren't simply labeling knowledge as public or private. You know, it's rather a spectrum of access, whether it's gendered or seasonal or any number of other varied access. So there we go. So the Hawaii spoke of, or the Hawaii Hub is really geared towards communities across the Pacific. Traditionally, we were more involved with communities in Micronesia. However, now that there is a new hub that's opened in Australia, we're hoping to reach a lot more of our fellow Pacific neighbors down in Australia, New Zealand, and various communities in Melanesia. So we provide digital preservation training for communities, archives, libraries, universities, you name it. And we train in the use of Mukurtu CMS. So Mukurtu is a free open source platform. It can be downloaded on anybody's computer. It can be run for free. You know, there's no costs involved unless you decide you would like to host it on, you know, a particular server. Otherwise, it's automatically hosted on our server, and yeah, and it's completely free to use. We can create a site for you to use at any point. And I think probably the biggest thing we can offer is really a network of other Mukurtu users. So you can see how Mukurtu is being used across the Pacific and across the world. So when Mukurtu was first started, we had 6 hubs that were located across the lower 48 of the states of the United States. Now we have additional hubs in Alaska, Hawaii, and the Pacific, as well as the most recent one in Australia, which I'll talk about towards the end of the presentation. So just to kind of roll through things a little quickly, I'm just going to show you a few sites that are currently using Mukurtu to highlight some of their collections. The first is BYU Hawaii. BYU is a university here on the island of Oahu, and they have a number of cultural artifacts in their collection. There were 1,500 from across Hawaii and the Pacific. They have an incredible scrimshaw collection of etched whalebone, as well as, you know, an incredible collection of koa bowls, axes, sinkers, old Hawaiian weapons, and so on. And so they've been kind of in the process of uploading, and for the most part, everything has been digitized, but really uploading a lot of their collections to Mukurtu. For each of the sites that I'll show you, you can see that there's a URL to the site. So if you are interested in seeing more of their collection, please feel free to navigate there as well. The next one I want to talk about is the Feleti Barstow Public Library. I'm in that person's way, which is the only public library in American Samoa. It's located in Pago. And they have a very interesting collection and a very unique way of and reason for wanting to upload all of these photographs. So the guy who is in the far right corner, his name is Keith Dahl. He was kind of a beloved figure across American Samoa. He recently passed away in 2012, I believe, and he lived in American Samoa for over 50 years. He took photos every day of just everyday life events that happened in Samoa, and by the time he passed, he had over 800,000 images that he had taken all on film, and remarkably had an incredible way of archiving. And so when it came time to build this archive, the staff at the Feleti Barstow Public Library were at a huge advantage in that every image had an identifying number, and they spent around 3 years digitizing everything. I think when we calculated it, it was about 30,000 scans of 24 images each. And they are finally done digitizing, and as of August, they have started uploading images to their Mukurtu site. So if you'd like to see their site, it's feletibarstowppa.org. They have over 70,000 images uploaded so far, divided into 10 categories, or 10 collections. Right now, about 5 of the collections are live, and since August, they have had over 1,000 registered users on their site. This is used as an identification project. So all of the images he took were of community events, whether it was high school football games or weddings or Christmas pictures, or from high school football. They had a number of collections that are all sort of geared towards Keith Dahl's collection. So these are just some of the images that you can find on the site. Within each collection, they are divided by year. So the years tend to span from 1979 to 2012 is generally the time frame. The next site I'd like to talk about is PAIAM, the Pacific Island Ethnic Art Museum. While they aren't located in the Pacific per se, they're located in Long Beach, California, they are the only museum in the contiguous United States devoted solely to Pacific Island arts and cultural heritage. And this is all from the private collection of Dr. Robert Gambiner, who was a very beloved doctor in Guam, and he established a number of hospitals and clinics throughout Micronesia and CNMI and the Marshall Islands. And so these are all from his collection that he had over the years. So again, if you'd like to visit their website, it's up here. You can see some examples of what they have, and it's a beautiful museum if you get the chance to visit. The final one I'd like to talk about, and keep in mind there are thousands or at least hundreds and hundreds of Mukurtu sites. So these are just a couple that I decided to choose somewhat at random, but that were also in the Pacific, focused on indigenous cultural heritage, or that sort of showcased how Mukurtu can be used with university collections or private collections or libraries. In this case, as I mentioned, the newest hub is at the State Library of New South Wales. It's a collaboration between the Center for Digital Scholarship and Curation at Washington State University, which is the sort of official hub for Mukurtu, as well as other institutes across Australia. And you can see here that they actually have 2 sites that are focused on Aboriginal and Indigenous peoples' collections and artwork. And if you'd like to check out more, please feel free and click on the websites and peruse some of what this hub has been able to collect over the years. The last thing I want to talk about very briefly, I know we're already running out of time, but our traditional knowledge licenses and TK labels. So one of the great things about Mukurtu is that TK labels are built into the site. So if you're not familiar with TK labels, they are essentially digital tags that are not legally binding. They are inspired by Creative Commons, but they really just provide an additional layer of guidance and education to the user on how the image should be accessed, how it should be viewed, and how it, or perhaps how it should not be accessed or circulated. And so there's a number of digital tags you can see here. You have outreach, which shows that this is used primarily for educational outreach. If this should or should not be used commercially. Oops, let me go back one. And additionally, you know, if they would like to seek community voices, if they might be trying to find more information about an image, as is the case in American Samoa, where they are looking for community voices to add to the collection. If something is culturally sensitive, if something should traditionally only be seen within a community. And again, there are other tags that relate to either something, you know, being seasonal or gendered, which should only be seen by males or females, or if it's sacred, etc. And just to kind of briefly mention one other thing about Mukurtu. This is from the Plateau Portals Library, and this is in what a typical record might look like on Mukurtu. So one of the great features about Mukurtu is you can have multiple records per image, which is really, really important when you're working with Indigenous communities, because a lot of times what's, you know, maybe listed in a museum is not the whole picture. In this case, you can see Washington State University. This is the first record, and all it says is a photograph showing the interior of the bakery at Samoa with workers. Now, Samoa School was a school that was, unfortunately, you know, had a lot of sort of white American privilege values in it that, you know, tried to assimilate Native Americans. And so there's a lot of very painful memories that come out of this that might be evoked from these images for a lot of people. And you can see here in the Umatilla record, now in this case there are 4 records that we can see: Washington State, 2 Umatilla records, and a Yakima record. So other Native American or Indigenous communities here in the US. And you can see I'm kind of talking a little bit more about what the image means to them. In this case, they provided a cultural narrative. You can also see in the bottom right here that it's TKA label, which is the attribution label, saying that, you know, this is now attributed to that it is correctly attributed to the rightful owner. And even though you can see 4 records, keep in mind, you know, there might be another 8 or 10 records here, but we don't have that access to it. Maybe we're not part of the community, or the person who put up the record did not want it to be shown, you know, publicly. So that's one of the great things about Mukurtu, is you can really filter access and, you know, and really create the site around the sort of ethical and cultural needs of the community. And with that being said, I think I'll end it here. Just want to give a big mahalo nui. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My name, again, is Alana Kanahele, and I work with the University of Hawaii at Manoa. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Mahalo nui, and I hope to see you all at some point in the next few years.